Welcome, nighttime traveller, to Sleepy Bedtime Stories, your haven of stories and tales to help you sleep. This is the place where traditional tales come to life and accompany you on your journey to rest. But first, tell me where you're listening from tonight and what time it is where you are. I'd love to know if you're joining me from your bed, from a cozy sofa, or perhaps from some corner of the world where you can still feel the spirit of ancient tales. Please leave me a comment. Every message from you is like a fragment of a precious amphora. If you'd like to support this space of peace and relaxation, subscribe and share the channel so that more people can find their refuge here. And now, take a slow, deep breath, because tonight we're going to dive into another thrilling story.
Peaceful Creatures. Chapter 1. Inhabitants of Silence, Animals of Slow Movement and Serene Life. There is a world that exists right on the edge of human perception. A world that does not shout, that does not compete, that does not demand attention. A world that simply is, that breathes slowly, that moves with such unhurried grace it almost seems frozen in time. It is the world of beings who chose, or perhaps always knew, that speed is not synonymous with life. That stillness is not absence, but a profound and ancient form of presence. Tonight, we are going to enter that world. We are going to walk very slowly amongst the dampest trees on earth, through the calmest waters of the oceans, through the deserts where the wind barely whispers and the rocks hold the day's heat like a secret. We are going to meet the inhabitants of silence, the slow travelers, the contemplatives of the animal kingdom, and perhaps, in doing so, we will discover something about ourselves. Let us imagine dawn in the rainforest of Costa Rica. It is an hour before the sun crosses the horizon. The air smells of damp earth and flowers that only open at night. The last crickets tune their final notes. Darkness still hangs over the treetops, but there is already a soft, pale, golden light beginning to filter through the highest leaves. And there, hanging from a branch 8 meters above the ground, completely motionless, is a 3-toed sloth. It hasn't moved for hours, perhaps for days. Its fur, a grayish-brown hue reminiscent of wet bark, is covered in a thin greenish film, microscopic algae growing on it like a living garden. That algae is not dirt. It is camouflage. It is a companion. It is part of an ancient, silent pact between a creature and the plant world around it. The sloth opens one of its eyes, just one, with a slowness that seems deliberate, almost meditative. The dark pupil observes the world without any sign of urgency. There is no fear in that gaze. There is no haste. There is something that, if we had to give it a name, we would call peace. Scientists have been studying sloths for decades and have discovered, time and time again, that this animal is not slow because it is primitive or underdeveloped. On the contrary, the sloth is a masterpiece of biological efficiency, perfected over more than 60 million years of history on this planet. Its metabolism is so extraordinarily low that it can survive on barely 400 calories a day, whilst a human of comparable size needs more than 2,000. Its body temperature fluctuates with the environment, saving energy as no other land mammal knows how to do. It moves slowly because it can afford to, because it discovered, before any philosopher, that stillness is power. Now the sun has fully risen. The jungle awakens around it with a bustle that contrasts with its absolute silence. Toucans cut through the air with their impossible beaks. Spider monkeys leap between the branches with a nervous, noisy acrobatics. The parrots fight over territory with shrill cries. The sloth remains unperturbed. It slowly raises a claw with that unhurried precision that characterizes it, and wraps it around a fresh branch. The movement takes almost a full minute, and it is the most elegant movement the jungle will have seen this morning. On the other side of the planet, on the coral reefs of the Coral Sea, off the northeastern coast of Australia, the water is 27 degrees. It is a March afternoon. The sunlight penetrates the ocean in diagonal rays of blue and green that illuminate the corals like stained glass windows in a submerged cathedral. And amongst those corals, moving forward with a determination that has nothing to do with speed, swims a seahorse. The seahorse is, perhaps, the slowest swimmer in the ocean. It has neither the powerful fins of the tuna nor the propulsive tail of the octopus, nor the hydrodynamic elegance of the dolphin. What it does have is a tiny dorsal fin that vibrates up to 35 times per second, invisible to the human eye, and propels it forward at a speed that rarely exceeds 1.5 meters per hour. 1.5 meters per hour. There are plants that grow faster. And yet, the seahorse has been in this ocean for some 45 million years. It has survived mass extinctions, ice ages, and changes in ocean temperature and chemistry that wiped out creatures far more powerful and faster than itself. and it is still here. On this March afternoon in the Coral Sea, wrapping its tail around a piece of orange coral so as not to be swept away by the current. There is a reason why humans have always loved the seahorse. There is something about its posture, that tilted head, that upright back, that way of floating vertically in the water as if it were meditating, that invites calm. Cultures of the ancient Mediterranean associated it with Poseidon, the god of the seas, and regarded it as a symbol of good fortune for sailors. In China, 2,000 years ago, the dried seahorse was a talisman of protection and longevity. Greek fishermen of the 5th century BCE placed figures of seahorses on the bows of their boats to pray for calm waters. Intuitively, those peoples had understood something that modern science confirmed much later, that there is wisdom in slowness, that there is strength in calm. The seahorse floating this afternoon off the Great Barrier Reef knows nothing of all this. It does not need to know. It simply exists with serene perfection in the only world it has ever known. There is a place in southern Africa, in the region the Zulus call Ukahalamba, the barriers of spears, and which the rest of the world knows as the Drakensberg Mountains, where sunrises last what seems like an eternity. The sky shifts from black to violet, from violet to pink, from pink to gold, in a transition so gentle and so slow that it seems impossible to pinpoint the exact moment when night turned to day. In that landscape of red stone and yellow grass, amongst the thorny bushes and ancient rocks, lives the leopard tortoise. It is the 4th largest land tortoise in the world. It can weigh up to 45 kilograms. Its shell, a bright yellow color speckled with black spots that give it its leopard-like name, is a work of art by nature, a perfect dome that has grown with it from the very first day of its life, an inseparable part of its skeleton, of its identity. The leopard tortoise resting this morning beneath an acacia bush begins to move as the sun touches the ground. It does so with that deliberateness characteristic of tortoises, with a calm certainty in every step, as if it knew exactly where it was going and had no doubt that it would get there. It walks at a speed of about 300 meters an hour when it is in a hurry. When it isn't, which is most of the time, it moves even more slowly. The leopard tortoise can live for over 100 years. A whole century of unhurried movement, of sun seen from close to the ground, of rains waited for patiently beneath its shell. When this tortoise, walking this morning through the Drakensberg, was born, perhaps there were still people who remembered the 19th century. And when it dies, if it dies of old age, which is no guaranteed fate in the African savannah, the world will be unrecognizably different from the one it knows today. it will never know. And in that, there is something profoundly beautiful. The San people, who have lived in southern Africa for at least 44,000 years, the world's oldest human population in terms of cultural continuity, have always had a special relationship with turtles. In their rock paintings, which cover the walls of caves throughout the Drakensberg, turtles appear as symbols of water, of rain, of life that endures. For the San, the turtle was a creature of the world below, of the underworld where water lived, and at the same time of the world above, where the ancestors lived. A creature of the threshold, a creature that belongs to all times at once. The leopard tortoise reaches a patch of green grass and stops. It lowers its head. It eats with that calm, total concentration possessed only by animals who know no distractions. A leaf, another, a yellow acacia flower that fell this morning. The sun rises. The shadows grow shorter. The world around her hums with heat. She eats unhurriedly, in peace. Let us now travel far away to the other side of the planet, to the icy, dark waters of the Arctic Ocean, beneath the sea's surface, where light reaches faintly, filtered through meters of cold water, where the temperature rarely exceeds 4 degrees Celsius, lives one of the most extraordinary and least known creatures on the planet, the Icelandic clam, whose scientific name is Arctica islandica. From the outside, it doesn't look like much. It is a clam, is greater than an oval shell, dark brown, almost black in color, about 10 centimeters long. It lives buried in the seabed sediment. It feeds by filtering the water. It hardly ever moves, or does so in such an imperceptible way that it would require continuous observation for weeks to notice it. But in the year 2006, researchers from Bangor University in Wales collected a clam of this species from the ocean floor off the coast of Iceland and dated it using techniques to count the growth rings in its shell. The result stunned the scientific community. The clam was 507 years old. 507 years. When that clam was born, in the year 1499, Leonardo da Vinci was finishing the sketches for what would become the most famous portrait in history. Columbus had reached the American continent just 7 years earlier. Gutenberg's printing press had only been in existence for 50 years. The Aztecs ruled Tenochtitlan. And whilst all that was happening, and whilst the centuries piled up, and whilst empires rose and fell, and whilst the world changed in ways no human being of the 15th century could have imagined, that clam lay at the bottom of the Arctic Ocean, filtering water, breathing slowly, simply being. The researchers gave it a name. They called it Ming, after the Chinese dynasty that ruled at the time of its birth. There was something cruel about Ming's story. To find out her age, the scientists had to open her up, which killed her. But before that, Ming had survived for 507 years in one of the most hostile environments on the planet, at temperatures close to freezing, in the darkness and absolute silence of the seabed. Her secret, if you can call it that, was also her slowness. A metabolism so low that it barely produced any cellular waste. A pace of life so unhurried that the aging processes which in mammals are inevitable and rapid slowed down until they almost came to a halt. Ming was not the oldest creature that had ever existed, nor even the oldest of its species. It was simply the one we were lucky and unlucky enough to find. There are reasons to believe that in the dark depths of the Arctic, clams live today that have spent 600, 700, perhaps 800 years in that same cold, quiet stillness. I think about that sometimes. That right now, whilst we breathe, whilst the world spins with all its speed and noise, in the dark depths of the Arctic Ocean there is a clam that has been there for centuries, that knows nothing of us, that needs to know nothing of us, that simply exists, unhurried and perfect in its eternal silence. Let us return to the surface. Let us return to the warmth. In the rainforests of Madagascar, the island that broke away from the African continent 90 million years ago and has since been a natural laboratory unique in the world. Evolution has produced creatures that exist nowhere else on Earth. One of them is the Parsons chameleon. The largest of all the world's chameleons. It can grow up to 68 centimeters in length. Its skin changes color not for camouflage, as popular myth would have it, but mainly to communicate with other chameleons, to regulate its body temperature, and to express emotional states that science is only just beginning to decipher. A calm chameleon tends towards greens and blues. A stressed or agitated chameleon turns yellow, orange, red. This afternoon, on a branch of an ylang-ylang tree in northern Madagascar, the Parsons chameleon we are observing is a deep, calm green. its eyes that most astonishing feature of chameleons, those eyes that move completely independently of one another, which can look forwards and backwards at the same time, turn slowly, like two small telescopes surveying the universe. The chameleon moves along the branch. One step, pause, another step, a longer pause. Every movement is a meditation, a question posed into the air before committing to the answer. Chameleons are not capable of moving quickly well. When they hunt, they do. With that tongue that shoots out at a speed 4 times faster than a space rocket's launch, but the rest of their lives is a practice of total deliberation. The Malagasy, the people of Madagascar, have a complex relationship with chameleons. Many consider them animals that bring bad luck, creatures of the spirit world that must not be disturbed. There are regions of the island where pointing at a chameleon is considered a gesture that can bring misfortune. This superstition, like many, contains a practical wisdom. The result is that chameleons are widely respected and rarely captured or disturbed by local people. The parson's chameleon we are observing knows nothing of these human beliefs. It moves along its branch with that extraordinary patience. It reaches the tip. It stops. It observes the world with its telescopic eyes that look in opposite directions. And then, in a flash lasting less than a second, the tongue shoots out. It strikes. It retracts. One less insect in the jungles of Madagascar. The chameleon returns to its perfect green stillness. There is something all these creatures have in common, something that goes beyond the mere speed of their movements. There is a quality in the way they inhabit the world that humans, throughout their entire history, have tried to capture, imitate, and attain. Buddhist monks in Himalayan monasteries have been practicing walking meditation for centuries. This involves walking at an extraordinarily slow pace, paying full attention to every step, every breath, and the weight of the body on the ground. In 12th century Japan, Zen Buddhist monks developed the tea ceremony Chado, the way of tea, partly as a practice of intentional slowness, as a way of remembering that every movement can be complete in itself if given sufficient attention. In ancient Greece, the Stoic philosophers spoke of ataraxia, equanimity, peace of mind, the ability to remain calm in the face of anything. It was not an inert or passive peace. It was an active, chosen, cultivated peace, a peace that resembled, though they would not have put it that way, the peace of a leopard tortoise walking through the Drakensberg, And yet, we have never quite achieved that ideal. We humans are fast, nervous, scattered. Our brain is a thought-producing machine that never stops. Our cities are mechanisms designed for speed. Our screens fragment us in seconds. That is why, perhaps, slow animals move us so much. That is why we pause before the aquarium where the seahorse swims. That is why we take out our phones when we see a sloth hanging from a tree. That is why something within us calms down, without us being able to fully explain it. When we see a tortoise walking, they are mirrors of something we lost, or never had, or perhaps just forgot. The Pacific coast of the Galapagos, the islands that changed the history of science. On 14 September 1835, Charles Darwin arrived in the Galapagos archipelago aboard the HMS Beagle. He was 26 years old. He had been sailing the world for 4 years, observing, taking notes, collecting specimens. But nothing he had seen had prepared him for this. What impressed him most during his first days on the islands were not the finches whose importance he would later understand, but the tortoises. The giant tortoises of the Galapagos. In his travel notes, Darwin wrote about them with a mixture of wonder and something bordering on the philosophical. He described how they walked in silence, with a measured determination, along the paths they themselves had carved out over generations towards the freshwater pools. He described how, when he approached them, they did not flee. They simply looked at him with their dark, round eyes, without fear, without agitation, as if the presence of that young English naturalist were simply another feature of the landscape. The Galapagos giant tortoises can live for over 150 years. Some living on the islands today were born before cars existed, before the First World War, before the aeroplane was invented. They are creatures that have survived 5 centuries of human contact, and human contact almost destroyed them, because sailors in the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries discovered that they could be stored alive in the holds of ships for months, without water or food, and used as a supply of fresh meat. But they survived. Those remaining today, under the protection of Ecuadorian laws and conservation programs, are the descendants of those who had the luck or the strength to resist. This morning, on Santa Cruz Island, a Galapagos giant tortoise weighing around 100 kilograms walks through the low vegetation of the transition zone between the coast and the island's interior. Its legs are columns of muscle covered in brown scales. Its neck, long and flexible, stretches out to reach a scalesia leaf hanging just above its line of sight. It eats slowly. It breathes slowly. The sun rises over the Galapagos. A blue-footed booby, another of these islands' extraordinary creatures, flies over the tortoise and lands a few meters away without either paying the slightest attention to the other. A bright orange lava lizard scurries across the tortoise's shell and disappears on the other side. The tortoise remains unperturbed. It carries on eating. It carries on being. With that calm and total permanence that is, perhaps, the deepest form of presence in this world. Twilight in the mangroves of the Ganges Delta. Here, Bangladesh and India divide the territory along borders that the river completely ignores, weaving its delta into 1,200 channels that open out onto the Bay of Bengal like the fingers of an immense hand. The Sundarbans mangroves are the largest tidal forest in the world. A labyrinth of roots and water where land and sea never quite agree. Here lives the Bengal tiger, perhaps the most iconic animal of this delta. But there are also much quieter creatures, far less well known, far older. Among the twisted roots of the mangroves, where the water rises and falls twice a day with the tide, lives the mud skipper. The mud skipper is a fish, but it is a fish that walks, that climbs trees, that spends up to 2/3 of its life out of the water. It uses its pectoral fins as proto-legs to crawl through the mud with a slow, methodical efficiency that, seen from above, resembles that of an animal that is learning, that is in the midst of the most extraordinary evolutionary adventure. And in a sense, it is. Mudskippers are, according to some scientists, a window into the past, a living image of what might have happened 375 million years ago, when the first vertebrates began to emerge from the water onto dry land. The ancestors of all amphibians, of all reptiles, of all mammals including us, may have been something like the mud skipper, frontier animals, creatures of the threshold, beings that belonged to two worlds at once and did not quite belong completely to either. The mud skipper we observed this afternoon in the Sundarbans moves through the mud with its fins. It stops. It raises its head. Its eyes, which can move independently, just like those of a chameleon, scan the muddy horizon. There is something deeply meditative about the way it moves. as if every movement were a carefully considered decision, as if the world on the other side of its eyes had a density and texture that deserve attention. The fishermen of the Ganges Delta know mud skippers well. They call them by names that vary from one language to another. In Bengali they are called kokosh. In Hindi they are known as haspau, and they regard them as creatures of the mud, creatures of the boundary between worlds. With all the sacred and somewhat unsettling connotations that this carries in the traditions of South Asia, the sun sinks into the Bay of Bengal. The mangroves darken. The mud skipper finds a hole in the mud, a nest, a burrow it has dug itself, and disappears into it with a slowness that has something ceremonial about it. The delta falls silent. The water rises. There are creatures that are slow in their entirety, in every aspect of their existence. And then there are creatures that are slow in their deepest essence, even though their bodies can move with some speed when necessary. The koala is one of the former. In the eucalyptus forests of southeastern Australia, where the trees are so tall that their tops brush against the low clouds of the southern winter, the koala sleeps for between 18 and 22 hours a day. 18 to 22 hours. When awake, it eats eucalyptus leaves, which are extremely low in calories and contain toxic compounds that no other mammal could digest. The koala has a digestive system specially adapted to neutralize these toxins, but the process requires such a great deal of energy that, to compensate, the animal must conserve all its reserves as much as possible. Hence the sleep, hence the stillness. An adult koala can spend an entire day in the same tree fork, sleeping, eating, sleeping again, without moving any more than is strictly necessary. Its movements, when they occur, possess that characteristic slowness we share with so many different creatures in so many corners of the world. A deliberateness, a precision, a total lack of urgency. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia, whose presence on this continent dates back at least 65,000 years, the world's oldest continuous human tradition, regarded the koala as a central part of their local cosmologies. In some traditions of southeastern Australia, the koala was a being of the dream time, the time of origins, the time when the world was sung into existence by the ancestors. It was not simply an animal that lived in the trees. It was a presence, a guardian, a creature that belonged simultaneously to the physical world and the spiritual world. The Australian Aborigines did not need modern biology to know that the koala was something special. They knew it in another way, through another kind of knowledge, equally valid and perhaps deeper. This morning, in the eucalyptus forests near the town of Healesville, in the state of Victoria, a female koala with a joey peeking out of her pouch sleeps in the fork of a red gum tree. The joey, which has not yet been given a scientific name, because koalas do not have individual names. Only the name of their species pokes out its small, round head and blinks with sleepy eyes. All is silent. The forest breathes. The mother koala doesn't move. She is asleep. The joey yawns with that exaggerated opening of the mouth that small animals have. It closes its eyes again. The world is exactly as perfect as it needs to be right now. Let's return to the water. This time, not to the cold ocean or the tropical river, but to one of the deepest and oldest lakes in the world. Lake Baikal in Siberia is the deepest freshwater lake on the planet. It is 1,642 meters deep at its deepest point. It contains 20% of all the Earth's surface fresh water. It is 25 million years old, the oldest lake in the world, and is home to more than 2,500 species of animals and plants, 80% of which are endemic. They exist nowhere else on the planet. Among them, the Baikal seal. It is the only species of freshwater seal in the world, and no one knows how it got here. Lake Baikal is more than 3,000 kilometers from the nearest ocean. Scientists have theories that its ancestors traveled up rivers millions of years ago, that they followed retreating glaciers, that they were transported by geological changes that no longer exist today. But none has been fully proven. The Baikal seal is simply here. It has been here so long that it is as much a part of this lake as the water itself. It is also an animal of extraordinary placidity. Baikal seals spend the winter under the ice, in waters that can reach 40 degrees below zero at the surface. They use specially adapted claws to keep breathing holes open in the ice throughout the polar winter. When the ice breaks up in spring, a process the Siberians call ledokhod, the breaking of the ice, and which they have observed for thousands of years as one of the most important signs of the year. The Baikal seals emerge into the sun and lie on the rocks of the lake's islands. And then they are all calm. They are round, grey bodies, breathing slowly beneath a sun that does not yet fully warm. They are dark eyes gazing at the deep blue sky of the Siberian summer. They are creatures that have survived the harshest winters on the planet without losing their fundamental calm, without losing that ability to lie on the rocks and simply be. The Buryats and the Evenki, the indigenous peoples who have lived on the shores of Lake Baikal since time immemorial, called the lake Dalai No, the sacred sea. For them, the seal was one of the spirits of the lake, one of the forms the ancestors could take when they returned to visit the world of the living. Baikal seals were not hunted without a proper ceremony, without asking their permission, without thanking them. There was a wisdom in that protocol which we, with all our science and all our efficiency, are still learning. The seal we observed on this rock in Lake Baikal one July afternoon yawns just like a koala cub, just like any living creature at peace, and closes its eyes. The lake surrounding it is the sky's largest mirror. There is an animal that for centuries was regarded as the symbol of sloth, of vice, of incapacity. An animal whose reputation was as unfair as it was persistent, is greater than an animal that, in medieval European bestiaries, those illustrated books of the 12th and 13th centuries that described the creatures of the world with a mixture of real observation and moral fantasy, was presented as a warning. The animal that starves to death because it is too lazy to seek food. The hare, the roe deer, the ox, all were animalized virtues. The sloth, although medieval bestiaries did not specifically know of it, as it lived on the American continent, embodied the opposite vice. But time, as always, corrected the error. Today we know that the sloth, the Bradypus tridactylus, the three-toed sloth we mentioned at the beginning of this story, is one of the creatures most perfectly adapted to its environment that evolution has ever produced. Its claws, which seem disproportionately long, are, in fact, passive gripping mechanisms. The sloth does not need to exert any force to remain hanging from a branch. The claws are curved in such a way that the mere weight of the body keeps them in position. A dead sloth remains hanging from its branch by its claws, effortlessly, because the system requires no effort. It can sleep in that position. It can eat. It can spend its entire life suspended 8 meters above the ground, safe from terrestrial predators, practically invisible thanks to the algae growing on its fur, completely at ease. Females give birth in that position, hanging from their tree. The young are born with their claws already ready to cling to their mother's body. When a sloth descends to the ground, something that happens roughly once a week, to defecate and urinate, and sometimes to cross open spaces it cannot traverse via the branches. It crawls with a slowness that seems agonizing. Its muscles are not designed for horizontal movement. On land, it is vulnerable, but in the water it is different. Sloths swim surprisingly well. When the rivers of the Amazon swell during the rainy season and in the Amazon rainforest it rains between 2,000 and 4,000 millimeters a year, transforming the jungle floor into a labyrinth of channels and streams. Sloths plunge into the water without hesitation and swim from tree to tree with quiet efficiency, using their long arms as oars, keeping their heads above water with that flexible neck. No one who sees a sloth swimming can continue to think of it as a slow animal. In the water, in its element, it moves with a grace that is almost surprising. Slowness, as we understand it, is not a limitation. It is a choice, or rather, it is a specialization, a perfect adaptation to a specific niche in the world. Like everything else in nature, the sun has begun to set in the west. In the jungles of Costa Rica, the shadows lengthen. In the mangroves of the Sundarbans, the tide rises. On Lake Baikal, the sun grazes the peaks of the Barguzin Mountains. In the Drakensberg Mountains, the leopard tortoise has found a spot amongst the rocks to spend the night. It is the hour when the animal world readjusts to the darkness. But there is one creature that barely notices the difference between day and night. A creature for which time, in its most dramatic sense, simply does not exist in the way it does for us. The sea sponge. Sponges are the simplest animals on the planet. They have no brain, no nervous system, and no organs in any conventional sense. They are, fundamentally, a structure of channels and pores through which water flows. They feed by filtering the water and extracting the organic particles it contains. They do not move, not in the sense that we move, or that turtles move, or even that a clam moves. They are fixed to the seabed. They are, by definition, sessile, and yet they are animals with cells, with metabolic processes, with a kind of life that goes beyond the plant and falls short of the animal as we know it. Some Mediterranean sponges have been in their current positions for thousands of years. There is a sponge of the species Monohaphis chuni that was found in the Pacific with a spicule length, its internal skeleton of biological glass of 3 meters, suggesting it could be thousands of years old, although exact dating is difficult. A glass sponge, a glass animal, fixed to the ocean floor since times predating any human record. What does a sponge experience? Does it experience anything at all? Science cannot answer this question. We have no access to the subjective experience of an animal without a nervous system. but there is something about the image of that sponge, that still, eternal filter feeder on the seabed, that invites profound humility. There are ways of being in the world that are beyond our comprehension. That will exist long after we have ceased to exist. That need nothing from us to remain perfectly what they are. Tonight, before we go to sleep, let's think about all this. The sloth hanging from its branch in the darkness of the jungle. The tortoise resting amongst the rocks of the Drakensberg. The clam filtering the cold Arctic water in a silence of 500 years. On the seahorse that curls up on its coral in the coral sea. On the Baikal seal sleeping on its rock beneath the Siberian stars. They are the inhabitants of silence. They are the ones who chose, or who always knew, that life need not be fast to be full, that the world need not be conquered to be inhabited. That stillness is not emptiness, but presence. That slowness is not surrender, but wisdom. In the coastal rainforest of Borneo, the world's second largest island, there is a forest of dipterocarp trees, those giant trees with tall, straight trunks that form the green canopy of the rainforests of Southeast Asia, where the orangutan lives. The largest of the arboreal primates, the one that most resembles us among all the creatures of this forest. The orangutan moves slowly, not as slowly as the sloth, not as slowly as the tortoise, but slowly for a primate. Thoughtful, deliberate. Every movement among the branches is assessed before being executed. The orangutan does not jump without knowing where it will land. It does not move on impulse. The Dayak peoples of Borneo, who have lived in these jungles for millennia, have always placed the orangutan in a category apart from other animals. In Malay, orang-utan literally means person of the forest, not man of the forest, but person of the forest. The distinction mattered, or at least that suggests that, for those who gave it that name, the difference between the orangutan and themselves was not as absolute as that which existed between them and, let's say, a crocodile. There is something in the orangutan's eyes that makes it difficult to keep one's distance. The male orangutan we observed this afternoon in Borneo, an old one, of about 30, with those bulging cheeks characteristic of adult males, with that enormous, serene face, is eating wild figs high up in a tree. He does so slowly, with his hands, selecting the fruit with an attention we might call careful, or even gourmet, if we were to anthropomorphize. When it finishes, It wipes its hands on its fur. It gazes towards the jungle horizon, towards the green, humid nothingness that stretches as far as the eye can see, with those eyes whose depth is impossible to fathom. And then he does something that, in another animal, would not catch our attention. Yawn. That yawn, that slow opening of an enormous jaw, that leisurely closing, that expression of quiet contentment that follows is the perfect summary of this story. Of this whole story we have told tonight. To be in the world completely, without urgency, without unnecessary fear, without the feeling that there is another place to be that is more important than this one. Just this, just now, just the branch, and the wind, and the figs that taste of what they taste of, and the sky beginning to turn orange on the horizon of Borneo. It is already night in most of the world we have visited. In Costa Rica, the sloth has opened that single eye once more. It has reached for another leaf with its curved claw. It has eaten, slowly, in the fragrant darkness of the jungle. In the Galapagos, the giant tortoise has found its spot for the night, a hollow in the ground amongst the roots of a scalzea tree, where the ground still retains the day's warmth. It has retracted its head into its shell. It breathes slowly, at a pace that seems even slower than that of the night. In the coral sea, the seahorse is curled up on its coral for the night. Its colors have faded to a dark brown. It sleeps, if seahorses sleep at all. In Lake Baikal, the stars are reflected on a perfectly still surface. The seal has returned to the water. She swims in the darkness of the deepest lake on the planet, amongst currents she has known since she was a pup, in waters her species has inhabited for millions of years. And in the Arctic, on the frozen, dark seabed, the clam filters the water, just as it has been doing for 500 years, as it will continue to do, if the world allows it, for another 500 years. There is a question that this story has not answered, and perhaps cannot answer. What do these creatures feel? Is there anything like being a giant Galapagos tortoise, basking in the sun on its volcanic island? Is there anything like being a sloth in the dark hours of the jungle, hanging from a branch, with the world asleep beneath it? The philosophy of mind calls this question the hard problem of consciousness. The Australian philosopher David Chalmers put it clearly in the 1990s. It is not difficult to explain the mechanisms of behaviour, the circuits of the brain, the responses to stimuli. What is difficult, the impossible difficulty, is explaining why there is such a thing as being anything why there is a subjective experience of the world at all. We do not know if the tortoise experiences anything. We do not know if the sloth feels anything we might call peace. We do not know if the Arctic clam has any kind of inner experience, however rudimentary it may be. But we do know this: there is something in the way we observe these animals that produces in us a recognizable experience. Something that is not exactly nostalgia, nor envy, nor tenderness, though it has elements of all of that. Something that could be called, with the necessary imprecision, reverence. Reverence for life that is capable of being without rushing, for existence that needs to prove nothing, for time lived on its own scale, at the pace that the body and the world demand, without imposition. Dawn returns to Costa Rica. A whole night has passed, and the three-toed sloth that was on its branch when we began this story is still on its branch. It has slept. It has eaten a few leaves. It has basked in the sun for a few minutes, in that specific posture that maximizes exposure to the morning heat and activates the algae in its fur. It has existed with a calm and total fulfillment. The jungle around it has done exactly the same. The trees have grown a few millimeters more. The flowers have opened and closed. The midnight rains have washed the leaves, and the smell of damp earth is so intense this morning that you can almost touch it. The sloth lifts its head towards the sun. That slow gesture, that opening of the eyes, that long pause before the next movement. There is no urgency. There never has been. There never will be. And in that lack of urgency lies a lesson that this planet has been trying to teach us for 60 million years. With the infinite patience of those who know that the pupil, sooner or later, will learn. Life, in its oldest and wisest form, is in no hurry. Life, in its purest form, is simply this: to be, to breathe, to exist slowly in the world that was given to you. Peaceful Creatures. Chapter 2: Natural Harmony, Tranquil Ecosystems and Peaceful Behaviour. Here is the full script. There are places in this world where time seems to have stood still. Places where the wind does not blow with urgency, but gently, as if it too knew there is no hurry. Places where the light falls in a particular way, oblique and golden, filtering through ancient branches, touching the ground with honey-colored fingers, and where the only sound that exists is that of nature breathing. Such places exist. They are real. And if one learns to listen to them, they begin to speak. This is the story of peace. Not the peace signed in treaties, nor that declared from podiums. This is the oldest peace in the world, the one that existed before human beings had words to name it. The peace of an ecosystem in balance. The peace of an animal resting without fear. The peace of a creature living its life with such absolute simplicity, so complete that it is almost impossible to comprehend from our fast-paced existence. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are at the edge of a high mountain lake, somewhere in the Swiss Alps, on a morning in early September. The water is still, so still that it resembles a polished silver mirror, reflecting the sky back to itself with perfect fidelity. The clouds drift slowly across that double surface. The real sky above, the reflected sky below, and for a moment that stretches and expands. You do not know which of the two is real. The air smells of damp earth, of pine, of something mineral and clean that has no name in any human language, but which the body recognizes immediately as something fundamental, something primordial. On the opposite bank of the lake, almost invisible amongst the reeds growing in the shallow water, there is a grey heron. It has been there, completely motionless, since before dawn, is greater than its long grey legs support that elegant body, that head crowned with a dark crest, that beak as sharp as an ivory dagger. It does not move. It does not blink, or if it does blink, it does so slowly that it is imperceptible. The grey heron is in no hurry. The grey heron has perfected the art of waiting over millions of years, and in that waiting there is a dignity so absolute, so serene, that one feels one ought to remain silent simply for being in its presence. This is how it all begins. With stillness, with patience, with that suspended moment in which the world holds its breath. Quiet ecosystems are not empty places. They are, in fact, some of the most complex and rich environments on the planet, precisely because in them life has found a way to organize itself without conflict, to coexist without destroying itself. They are the result of millions of years of adjustment, of trial and error, of death and birth and transformation. They are the product of a negotiation so long and and so patient that the human mind can scarcely conceive of it. And yet, when one sits in silence in the midst of one of these places, all that complexity vanishes from the surface, and all that remains is calm. Let the heron guide us for a moment longer. It has been here since long before the first mountaineers discovered this lake in the 18th century. Its ancestors were here long before the Romans built their first roads across the mountain passes. The grey heron, Ardea cinerea, has inhabited the wetlands of Europe, Asia, and Africa for millions of years. And throughout that time, its fundamental strategy has not changed. It does not compete through brute force. It does not dominate its territory aggressively. It waits. It watches. It blends into the landscape so perfectly that sometimes fish swim right beneath its feet without detecting any threat. There is a lesson in that, though this is not the time to articulate it. It is better simply to observe, simply to be. The lake begins to stir to life as the sun climbs a few degrees higher above the line of the peaks. At the northern end, where a small stream feeds into the lake with a constant, gentle murmur, a family of wild ducks emerges from the vegetation. The mother leads the way, as always, escorted by 7 ducklings no more than 3 weeks old. Their plumage is still that clumsy, adorable mix of down and fledgling feathers, and they swim with a somewhat chaotic enthusiasm, as if they had not yet learnt that the water requires so little effort. The mother guides them with a calmness that is not indifference, but confidence. She knows the lake is safe this morning. She knows this because she has spent weeks learning its rhythms, its smells, its sounds. When something changes in the air, she notices it before any human instrument could detect it. And so, without any visible signal, the whole family turns slightly southwards, where the sun is already warming the surface of the water and the insects begin their morning dance just above the silvery mirror. Beyond the Alps, crossing the continent towards the east, the peaceful ecosystems take on another form, another texture, another rhythm. On the plains of central Kazakhstan, where the steppes stretch in all directions as far as the eye can see and beyond, the wind is the invisible protagonist of a symphony that no one has composed, but which has been playing since the dawn of time. The tall grasses all bend in the same direction when the wind passes, creating a continuous wave, a movement reminiscent of the sea but belonging only to the vast, arid land. Here lives the steppe marmot, a small animal with a sturdy body and dark, shining eyes that look upon the world with an expression we might call, without too much romanticism, one of perpetual, contented surprise. Marmots are deeply social creatures, organized into colonies that can stretch for kilometers beneath the surface of the steppe, in a network of tunnels and chambers that represents one of the most ambitious engineering projects in the animal kingdom. Each tunnel has its function. Each chamber has its purpose. There are sleeping quarters and pantries, passageways and special chambers where the young spend their first weeks sheltered from the outside world. On the surface, during the hottest hours of the Kazakh summer, marmots bask in the sunshine at the entrance to their burrows with a calmness that seems absolute. Some groom one another with slow, meticulous movements. Others simply sit upright, resting on their hind quarters, gazing at the horizon with that expression of serene attention that characterizes them. There is something about their posture, in that calm uprightness, in that looking into the distance without apparent anxiety, that evokes a form of meditation, as if they knew something about the art of being present that we humans have struggled for centuries to learn. The colony has its own communication systems, its own signals and protocols. When an individual on the edge of the colony detects something worthy of attention, it emits a short, high-pitched whistle that immediately spreads through the network of lookouts strategically distributed across the entire area. It is not panic. It is information. And the colony's response is not chaos, but order. Each individual making its decision according to its position and distance from the nearest burrow. And within seconds the steppe is silent once more, with only the wind as a witness. But most mornings, the signal doesn't come through. Most mornings, the marmots bask in the sun, groom themselves, play amongst the yearlings with an energy that is a joy to watch, and the world of the steppe continues its leisurely turn without anything disturbing that fundamental balance that has taken so long to build. Let us now travel south, towards the heat, towards the intense white light of the eastern Mediterranean. In the shallow waters of a Greek bay, somewhere along the Peloponnese coast where olive trees reach almost to the sea and fishermen's boats have been ploughing the same waters for centuries, there exists a universe that we humans have taken a long time to learn to see. A green and silent universe that stretches beneath the transparent surface of that ancient sea, so steeped in history, so full of the echoes of civilizations that were born and died on its shores. The Posidonia Meadows. That is the name given to these seabeds covered in an aquatic grass that is not seaweed but a true plant, with roots, flowers and fruits. A plant that has been in this sea for over 100,000 years and which is according to the scientists who study it, one of the longest living organisms on the planet. Some specimens of Posidonia oceanica in the Mediterranean are estimated to be between 8,000 and 200,000 years old. 200,000 years. Whilst we humans were building and destroying empires, crossing oceans, inventing writing and the wheel and penicillin, this seagrass was simply growing. Slowly, with a patience that makes the word serenity seem small. Posidonia seagrass beds are complete ecosystems in their own right. They serve as a refuge, a nursery, and a larder for hundreds of different species. Their long, undulating leaves are home to tiny crustaceans that appear invisible to the naked eye, but under a magnifying glass reveal an astonishing morphological complexity. Is greater than amongst their rhizomes, those intertwined roots that form an almost impenetrable mesh on the seabed. The juveniles of many commercial fish species hide, protected by this dense vegetation that no large predator can easily penetrate. And on this July morning, with the sun already high over the Aegean and the light filtering in oblique columns through the crystal clear water, a rock octopus emerges from its hiding place amongst the rocks at the edge of the seagrass bed and moves forward with that fluid, hypnotic locomotion so uniquely its own. The octopus moves like a thought, like water taking shape, changing color and texture as it passes over different backgrounds. On the rock, it is rock. On the sand, it is sand. On the seagrass, it turns green and textured and practically disappears into the landscape. It is not magic. It is evolution. It is the result of 400 million years of natural history, of a relationship so long and so intimate between these animals and their environment that the distinction between being and place has become, at times, impossible to trace. The octopus is in no hurry this morning. It explores the edge of the meadow with methodical curiosity, inspecting every crevice with the tips of its flexible arms, testing, touching, assessing. Octopuses are extraordinarily intelligent, capable of solving complex problems, of learning from experience, of remembering solutions that have worked in the past. And yet, at this moment, all that intelligence seems to be at the service of something very simple: quiet exploration, unhurried discovery, the pleasure, if we can call it that, of experiencing a familiar environment as if it were new each time. Higher up, in the water column separating the bottom from the surface, schools of sailormas pass by. They are small, silvery fish, with longitudinal yellow stripes that glisten like filaments of light when the sun touches them from above. The salamas move in formations that constantly change shape but never break up, as if the entire shoal were a single organism with thousands of perfectly coordinated parts. There is no leader. There is no visible hierarchy. Each individual responds to the movements of its nearest neighbors, following simple rules which, when combined, produce those extraordinarily beautiful patterns of collective movement. This is what scientists call emergent behaviour. Order without a director. Harmony without a conductor. The world's oldest choreography, performed by animals who do not know they are being watched, who do not know they are beautiful, who simply are. Evening falls on the Mediterranean with that particular light that Renaissance painters tried to capture but never quite managed to fully capture. A light that seems to come from within things as well as from without. A light that makes the ancient stones on the shore seem to hold the warmth of all the previous evenings they have absorbed over the centuries. And as the sun sinks towards the sea horizon and the Peloponnese sky is tinged with hues that have no exact name in any language, a striped dolphin emerges a few meters from the shore, its dark back cutting through the water with that effortless elegance that seems almost like a joke of evolution. Is greater than. Behind it, another emerges, and another. It is a small pod, perhaps 7 or 8 individuals, moving northwards, following a warm current that brings with it small shoals of anchovies. Striped dolphins, Stenella Coeruleo alba, are the most abundant cetaceans in the Mediterranean. They have inhabited this sea since long before the Greeks gave it a name, long before the Phoenicians crossed its waters laden with purple dye and glass. And throughout all that time, their relationship with the sea has remained the same. They swim, they hunt, they play, they communicate, they care for their young, they sleep, or something resembling sleep, using half a brain at a time whilst the other half keeps the body moving and at the surface. This afternoon, the group does not seem driven by hunger or any threat. They swim with that elegant indolence they adopt when all is well with the world. Some leap, not out of necessity but for something that in any other context we would not hesitate to call fun. Those leaps are perfect, arcs of silvery bodies over the golden afternoon water, with a precision that seems rehearsed, though it is not. Or perhaps it is. Perhaps play is also training, a way of keeping skill alive, of exploring the limits of one's own body in a safe environment. Perhaps play and learning are, at heart, one and the same. Let us now travel to a completely different place. Let us cross the Atlantic heading west and head south to the rainforests that cover the Amazon River basin. It is before dawn. The sky above the jungle canopy is still black, but not an empty black, rather a full black, pulsating as if it contained something on the verge of bursting. At this hour, the jungle is a universe of sound of almost overwhelming density. Crickets, frogs, the distant, melancholic call of a night bird that no one has yet seen. And above it all, that constant murmur, almost infrasonic, which is the jungle itself breathing. In the high branches of a cecropia tree, some 20 meters above the ground, a three-toed sloth sleeps with that total, beautiful abandonment that only those who sleep without fear can afford. Its curved claws, perfect for clinging to the wood, keep it secure even in sleep. Its fur, a brownish gray that turns slightly greenish near the back due to the microscopic algae living amongst its hairs, blends in with the texture of the bark. From below, or from above, or from any angle that isn't exactly the right one, the sloth simply doesn't exist. It has vanished into the tree. This is the genius of the sloth. Not strength, not speed, not the tactical cunning of a predator. The genius of the sloth is stillness, invisibility through immobility, survival as a contemplative practice. Sloths move so slowly, they consume so little energy, that their body temperature can vary by several degrees depending on the ambient temperature, something extraordinarily unusual in a mammal. They have taken the economy of effort to such an extreme that it sometimes seems like a parody of a principle, but which is in fact an evolutionary strategy of extraordinary success. They have been in the jungle for millions of years. They have survived climate change, mass extinctions, and continental drift. Whilst other lineages went extinct trying to adapt by running, the sloth survived simply by staying still. There is a wisdom in that which is difficult to articulate but easy to feel. When the sun begins to peek over the horizon of trees, tinging the sky with that distinctive orange-pink hue of Amazonian sunrises, the sloth gradually wakes up. Not suddenly, not with a start, is greater than slowly, as if sleep were ebbing from him in gentle waves. He ceases to be an object and becomes an animal once more. His dark irised eyes an expression of profound calm open, focusing on the new day with a patience that is not slowness, but something more akin to genuine contemplation. Slowly, very slowly, the sloth begins to move towards the new leaves of the cecropia. The leaves of this tree are its main food source and are not particularly nutritious, which is part of the reason why the sloth must conserve so much energy in everything else. It eats with that same methodical calm. A leaf. Pause. Another leaf. A long pause. During those pauses, which can last several minutes, the sloth simply exists. It looks, listens, feels the warmth of the sun already beginning to filter through the branches. It doesn't seem bored. It doesn't seem anxious. It seems within the limits of what we can imagine, fundamentally well. Below, on the jungle floor, where the light filters through in fleeting patches through that canopy as dense as a secret, the giant armadillos make their late-night rounds. They are large animals, up to 1.5 meters in length, covered in those articulated bony plates that give them the appearance of creatures from a world before ours, creatures of another timescale. And in a way, they are. Armadillos have been in South America for 60 million years, since before the extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs, since a time that the human mind can write about but cannot truly imagine. The giant armadillo digs. That is what it does. Its front claws, enormous and curved, are perfect tools for digging into the red, compact soil of the Amazon rainforest. And what it is looking for in those burrows are termites. Hundreds of thousands of termites a night, consumed with a long, sticky tongue that penetrates the tunnels of the termite mounds with a precision that has taken millions of years to refine. The termite mounds dug by the giant armadillo are then reused as shelter by dozens of other species, from possums to snakes, from bats to lizards. The giant armadillo doesn't know it's doing this. It doesn't plan it, but it does it, and the entire ecosystem benefits from its work without it realizing it. This is how nature works at its best. This is how mutualism works. Symbiosis, interdependence, a creature doing what it needs to do to survive, and that very act creating the conditions for other creatures to survive too. Without intention, without conscious altruism, with that impersonal, perfect elegance that only millennia of co-evolution can produce. Morning in the Amazon rainforest is a total sensory experience. The chorus of birds reaches its peak in the early hours after dawn, when dozens of species simultaneously emit their territorial claims. their courtship calls, their alarm signals, their songs simply for the sake of singing. Among all these sounds, there is one that resonates with particular intensity, cutting through the air with almost surgical precision. It is the call of the great toucan. The great toucan, with that disproportionate beak that looks like the result of some evolutionary design flaw, but is in fact one of the most elegant thermoregulatory solutions in the animal kingdom, perches on the tip of a dry branch from which it can command a view of a clearing in the canopy. It is a bird of almost ridiculous beauty. The black body, the creamy white breast, the red patch around the eye, and that enormous orange, green and black beak that looks as if it were made of a different material to the rest of the bird, as if someone had added it later as a slightly excessive decoration. And yet it works. It works as a tool for reaching fruit on branches too thin to support the bird's weight. It works as a radiator to dissipate body heat during the hottest hours of the day. It works as an unmistakable visual signal that allows other toucans of its species to recognize it from afar. The toucan is eating wild figs this morning. It reaches for each fruit with the tip of its beak, handling it with that surprising dexterity they possess for manipulating objects with such a large instrument, and carries it to its throat with a backward movement of the head that is unmistakably its own. It eats without haste. The fig tree has enough fruit to last the whole morning and more, and he knows it, or at least acts as if he knows it. His presence here is not just nutrition. It is also dispersal. The seeds that pass through his digestive system unharmed are deposited hours later in places other than the mother tree, contributing to the regeneration of the forest with every excretion. It eats. It defecates. The forest grows. It's that simple. It's that extraordinary. Let us now travel to another hemisphere, to a different kind of tranquility. Let us leave the humid heat of the Amazon and head north, towards the high latitudes where the Arctic summer transforms the tundra into something that no one who has not seen it could imagine possible. In northern Canada, in the territories of Nunavut, during the weeks of June and July when the sun never fully sets and the light has that strange quality, that sleepless pallor that illuminates the landscape 24 hours a day, the tundra blossoms. It blooms in a way that seems like a miracle every year, even though it has always happened. In soil that remains frozen just a few centimeters deep throughout the 12 months of the year, in conditions that would seem prohibitive for any form of complex plant life. Mosses and lichens grow, tiny Arctic flowers of the most intense colors, minuscule ferns, dwarf willow bushes no taller than 10 centimeters, but with roots that have been penetrating the permafrost for decades. In this landscape of infinite horizons and a sky that ranges from pearl grey to pure white, passing through every possible shade of pale blue, lives the musk ox, an animal that seems to have emerged from a time before our own, even before the last ice age, with that long coat that falls almost to the ground like a king's cloak, those curved, flat horns that meet at the front of its head, forming an impressive bony shield. The musk ox has survived the last great ice age. It shared the tundra with woolly mammoths. It witnessed the arrival of the first humans on the American continent as they crossed the Bering Strait 12,000 years ago. On this late July morning, a group of 16 animals grazes in a gentle hollow where lichens are particularly abundant. They eat slowly, very slowly, is greater than, with that deliberateness characteristic of large animals in harsh climates, where every movement has a caloric cost that must be carefully managed. Among the adults are 4 calves born this year, little calves of about 3 months old, who already have the dark coat of the adults, but retain that charming clumsiness of the novice. They approach the adults with confidence. They snuggle up close to their mothers. They play briefly amongst themselves, running in short circles on the soft moss, and then return to grazing with that newfound seriousness that young animals adopt when they imitate the older ones. The herd moves in silence. Only the sound of their hooves on the moss, a soft, muffled sound, and the occasional crackle of a drier plant beneath their weight. The north wind arrives with that scent the Arctic has, a scent of ice and distance and antiquity. The musk oxen face it head-on, their noses twitching slightly as they process information that no human instrument could detect with such precision. They are well. The herd is well this morning. The world is well. There is something about Arctic and subarctic ecosystems, in that austerity of colors and forms, in that reduction to the essentials that the cold imposes, which makes peace more visible. In the jungle, peace is hidden amongst the exuberance. In the tundra, there is nothing to hide anything. Everything is in plain sight, under that light that knows no darkness. And in that total transparency, the harmony of the ecosystem is seen in an almost geometric way, almost mathematical. But let us return to the forests. Let us return to the shade and the mystery. In the temperate forests of the Pacific Northwest, in that region of the North American coast stretching from Northern California to Alaska, where Douglas firs and coast redwoods grow to heights that make one feel one's own body as something very small and very fortunate. There is a particular kind of silence. It is not the silence of absence, but the silence of abundance. A silence that is full of small sounds that cancel each other out, that balance each other, that together create that acoustic texture which the body registers as peace. It rains constantly here during the winter months, and in the summer months, the sea mist rolls in from the Pacific every morning and creeps up through the valleys, between the trunks of the giant trees, leaving a film of moisture on every surface that makes the colors more intense, making the greens greener than any green has a right to be. Moss covers everything that remains still long enough. The rocks, the fallen trunks, the low-hanging branches. Moss is the skin of this forest. Its texture, if one bends down and touches it with the palm of one's hand, is softer than any fabric human technology has ever produced. The Roosevelt elk lives in this forest, the largest of the North American elk, with antlers that, in adult males, can reach a span of 1.5 meters and weigh 20 kilograms. And yet, they move amongst the trees with a silence that is difficult to explain for an animal of that size. The moose moves slowly. It eats slowly. Ferns, huckleberry bushes, young pine needles, the soft bark of poplars. Their digestion is a long and complex process that requires them to chew their food again later, like cows. And these periods of rumination are moments of absolute stillness in which the moose remains motionless in some forest clearing, with half-closed eyes, chewing with that slow, steady rhythm that has something meditative about it. A cow with her calf from this year. The fawn has already lost the white patches it was born with and has the uniform, brownish coat of an adult, although its limbs are still somewhat disproportionately long, as if the body had not yet finished adjusting to its own limbs. It stays close to its mother with that calm insistence, without anxiety, but without independence, in that intermediate stage of rearing that is trusting dependence. The mother knows it. She sniffs him periodically, bringing her enormous head close to the young one's flanks, reaffirming that recognition which is also a form of love, or of something that works in the same way as love. Together, they spend the afternoon on the bank of a small river where the water flows clear and cold over round pebbles. They wade into the water up to their knees. They drink. Between sips, the mother lifts her head and looks without alarm towards the forest on the opposite bank. All is well. Everything smells fine. The afternoon is long and gentle, and the forest surrounds them with that protective presence that old forests possess when one learns to receive it. The forest also has its own invisible networks. beneath your feet, beneath the carpet of fallen needles, moss, and dark earth, there exists a network of fungi that connects the trees to one another in ways that scientists only began to understand in the 1990s. The mycelial network, that web of fungal filaments thinner than a human hair, which penetrates the soil in all directions for kilometers, allows trees to exchange nutrients and chemical signals via what researchers have colloquially termed the woodland World Wide Web. The forest network. A tree under stress can receive sugars from a healthy neighboring tree via this network. Mother trees, the oldest and largest individuals with deeper roots and access to more resources, can nourish the young saplings growing in their shade, which on their own would not have access to enough light to survive. Unintentional generosity, unconscious solidarity, community as a physical principle rather than a moral value. The sun in the temperate Pacific forest does not reach the ground directly, except in a few clearings where a giant tree has fallen and opened a window to the sky. In those clearings, the light becomes almost tangible, almost solid, a column of particles floating visibly in the still air. And in those columns of light the mosquitoes dance, thousands of them. In those courtship dance formations they have performed since long before any creature existed, capable of observing them and finding them beautiful or a nuisance. They dance because they must dance. They dance because their bodies, honed by millions of years of selection, propel them upwards into the light and downwards into the shade with a rhythm that, from just the right distance, proves strangely hypnotic. And there, at the edge of the clearing, clinging to the bark of 150-year-old Douglas fir, a Pacific salamander observes the world with those large, golden eyes that certain nocturnal animals possess, eyes that seem to store light. The salamander does not move. The salamander rarely moves during daylight hours. It is an animal of the night and the rain, an animal that prefers the damp darkness beneath fallen logs, in the crevices of moss-covered rocks, at the edges of streams. But this afternoon the temperature is perfect, and the tree bark is warmed by the afternoon sun, and the newt simply is. It exists in that moment with a completeness that needs neither justification nor external purpose. Salamanders are ancient amphibians. They have been on Earth since the Jurassic period, over 150 million years ago. They have witnessed entire geological eras pass, mass extinctions, the rise and fall of lineages that we know only through their fossilized bones in the rock. And yet, here is this salamander on the warm bark of this fir tree, in this clearing of this forest, on this particular afternoon of this specific year, existing with the same essential simplicity with which its ancestors existed before there was a name for any of this. That is, perhaps, what all these places and all these creatures have in common. Not the absence of danger, nor the guarantee of survival. Not happiness, which is too human a concept to apply honestly, but something more fundamental, complete presence in the moment that exists. The heron on the alpine lake, the marmots on the steppe, the octopus amongst the seagrass, the sloth in the cecropia tree, the musk oxen on the tundra, the moose by the river, the salamander on the bark of the ancient tree. All of them, without knowing it, without meaning to, are teaching us the same thing. Peace is not a destination. It is a way of being in the world. And the world, when one learns to look at it with sufficient stillness, is already full of it.
Release the tension in your forehead. Relax the muscles around your eyes. Let your arms rest completely, heavy and warm at either side of your body. Your breath now flows naturally, like gentle waves lapping at the shore and receding effortlessly. The stories you have heard tonight slowly fade away, becoming distant whispers that you no longer need to follow. If this journey through time has served you well, you can support this space by liking, subscribing, or sharing your thoughts in the comments. That way, more people seeking rest may find refuge here. And if you are still awake, there is another story waiting in silence, ready to guide you deeper into sleep. But for now, let the voices of the past fade gently away. Let the names, dates, and events melt into the mist of the night's oblivion. The story can wait until tomorrow. Close your eyes. Let go of everything. Rest deeply, and may you have sweet dreams.